Cronenbourg 564. Sponsor du Tour de France.
Since the Tour de France began, Chris Boardman has been its only leader, but today he faces the final test before going to England in yellow. Overall, he leads by only 15 seconds. Everyone, especially Chris, knows it could so easily change today. It's the team time trial.
What can you say? We just give it our best shot and see what happens. I think the real danger teams are going to be Motorola and GBMG. GBMG have been almost conspicuous by their absence at the front up to now, and they've been looking after themselves. And I think Motorola have already stated that they're, one of their objectives is the team time trial.
Hello and welcome to a very windy Calais, the last port of call before the Tour de France crosses the Channel for the first time in 20 years. And today is D-Day for Chris Boardman, 60 kilometres away from his finest hour. But today it's a team time trial, and Boardman is not in charge of his own destiny. All 21 teams coming out and racing as a group, and Boardman knows now his team must ride well for him. If this is the first time you're watching the team time trial, here's Paul Sherry now to explain more.
This trial has always been an event which reflects the importance of a strong team. It is in this discipline that all the members must ride together. Any time lost will cost an individual dearly. The team adopt their most streamlined position, keeping in a tightly knit formation, which will help the riders behind save as much as 30% of their energy. Here the wind is coming from the left corner, and the riders form a diagonal line known as an echelon. They will try to keep this formation at all costs. The work is shared. Each rider takes a turn at the front, and it is he who sets the pace. Having completed his relay, he then allows the wind to push him gently to the back to seek the shelter of his teammates. Here he recuperates before moving forward to set the pace once again.
And we should see plenty of echelons forming in the winds today because they are really very, very strong. It's a difficult course over 62 kilometres with short and sharp exposed climbs, certain to hurt the weaker team men.
Guess the weather's going to play a major factor today with winds coming from the west. The average temperature dropped down a little bit from yesterday, 20 degrees Celsius. It should be cloudier with good sunshine for the rest of the afternoon.
And now we see Chris Boardman in the leader's yellow jersey, the last team to start here, the French GAN team. And it is exactly what the manager Roger Leger would happen. Didier Roux riding just behind Chris Boardman here, and Greg LeMond should be the rider he's chosen to have in front of him. And Boardman, his style so specific, Paul. He is clearly, this is the event which he loves.
This is definitely his kind of event. He's fantastic at it. He's been told by Greg LeMond how to ride the team time trial because he's ridden team pursuits before on the track, but this is a totally different kind of effort. He's been told not to try and ride at 55, 56 kilometers an hour for 1 kilometer, but to do it for a shorter period of time and a little bit slower. Get the time check just coming up through there from the first time check. Chris Boardman's team hasn't got in there, but the interesting thing is Banesto have gone through with the second best time just behind the GBMG Technogym team.
Here's the approach now of Lamprey down to just 5 men, the minimum number they can have for the time, because the clock only stops when the 5th man crosses the line. That's why they sprint and try to close the line up at the back. So it's been a tough ride for Lamprey. They've led at every checkpoint. We're going to see the best time thus far now. You can see the riders have dropped off the back there. Their job has been to keep the pace high and then launch their 5 man at the finishing line. And a good time. This has set the standard now. Lamprey, 1 hour, 21 minutes and 46 seconds.
Looks like here there's a little bit of a problem with the GAN team. In fact, Chris Boardman at the back has just pulled over. He's calling up the team car, and it may well be he has a problem with his bicycle.
Well, what on earth is going on? He wants a spanner, I think. And then you can hear Roger Leger, the team manager, shouting, change your bike, change your bike. And he accelerated immediately. He's telling the team he's got a problem with the handlebars. Well, you know, these bikes are so technically correct and they're finely tuned, and yet Chris has had problems with his bikes before. He broke his handlebars in the opening prologue time trial of the Tour of Switzerland, and this could be the beginning of a total disaster for him.
Well, it's very difficult to know exactly what his problem is at the moment. He went to the team car and spoke with him. He was talking to his teammates, and now it's Greg LeMond who's come up alongside him. Chris does have a problem with his team in the fact that he can't communicate totally with them yet. He hasn't learned the French language, and this is a problem because LeMond is pushing him. I think the referees may well look the other way, but there is a problem. Boardman does have an Allen key in there. He's trying to alter the position of his handlebars.
Well, he's nipped up the bolts or something, and he's going again now. We go up to join now the Benesto squad, carrying Miguel Indurain, the man who carries number 1 as winner of the Tour de France for the past 3 years. Having gone through the 22-kilometer check with the second best time.
This, in fact, is Gerard Rouet at the back, and he really is suffering a little bit. I wonder if it's got anything to do with that crash that he had yesterday. You see Rouet just getting tailed off. He's fighting to stay in contact with the rest of the team, and this could be bad for Indurain because it's over the last 15, 20 kilometers of this time trial course today that it's going to be vital to have all 9 men there.
And the arrival at the finish of the Telecom team. Expected good time from Telecom. They've got some great team time trial riders there from the old days of East Germany. And second best at the moment, 1 hour 22 minutes 57 seconds. Now let's have a look at the GAN team here on the climb, and we have a problem here at the back of the race for one of the riders, Greg LeMond. LeMond dropping dramatically back on the slope here, but immediately picks it up again, and I think Greg LeMond is in trouble, and I'm not sure it's his bike, Paul. I think it's Greg himself.
Well, it was very difficult to see there because he looked as if he was looking down at his gear change, and it may well be that the gear had jumped up a little bit. I know they've been experimenting with the new electronic system of changing gears. There have been a few problems, and it may well be that Greg was suffering from that at the moment because the way he reacted and came back into the group, I'm not sure that physically he was having a problem.
This is the situation we're now getting here at 45 kilometers covered. As you can see, Motorola going through there with a time 56 better than Lamprey. Well, still the best time at the finish. Yellow jersey of Chris Boardman, having got to the front of the GAN squad now to try and pull this team along and repair whatever damage has happened in those opening kilometers. We're awaiting their arrival at the 22-kilometer point. Still to come there, the only other team, which is the one ahead of them by 5 minutes on the road, that's the Castorama team of France. Benesto still heading out towards the midway checkpoint. The best time now at 45 kilometers is GB. They were the best at 22, but we still have GAN to reach there. Castorama have gone through with only the 4th best time, 20 seconds off the pace of the GB squad. The GAN team have not yet arrived at 22 kilometers. But the GB team carrying Johan Museo now passing through the 45-kilometer check with the best time of 57 minutes and 26 seconds. Looking here at Benesto. They've yet to arrive at 45 kilometers, starting 10 minutes behind the GB squad.
Team in here is the team that have been leading at 1 or 2 of the checkpoints so far. The Motorola team have just been beaten to the 45-kilometer mark by the GB team by just 12 seconds, and they've still got 6 men in there.
Lance Armstrong, anxious to dance his way up the climb in first place and open quite a gap over the rest of the riders there who are measuring their efforts much more sensibly. Sean Yates, the rider in the centre with no helmet on, you can pick him out easily enough. 7 of their riders are still together. While down at the finishing line, only 5 men left from the Carrera team. Claudio Chiappucci, the team leader, coming through in that red crash helmet. And he's going to be very close to the second best time. I think they're going to be second best time on the line, for the moment at least. 1 hour 22:27. And Claudio Chiappucci will be very happy with his team performance there. And news reaching us now that the GAN team has gone through, and it is not good news for us at the 22-kilometer point. We're looking at them now. They've passed through with a time of 29 minutes and 13 seconds, and that is 36 seconds off the pace, and that is putting Chris Boardman at this moment out of the jersey. Let's just hope that he can recover from mechanical problems over the second half of the course. So that's the situation at the moment, and we'll take a break.
Welcome back. Now, as soon as today's time trial's over, there's what could turn out to be another one through the Channel Tunnel, because as each team finishes, they'll be heading off to catch the shuttle, which, as you probably know, has been delayed in opening to the public for at least another 6 months. Once they do get over, though, it should be a great couple of days. As a public service, we've compiled a top 10 list of tips for enjoying the Tour en Angleterre. Here it is.
First of all, use public transport if you don't want to get stuck in a jam or behind a pastry. Traffic will be horrendous. If you have to come by car, though, make sure the domestiques on your team have the radiator well supplied with water before you set off. Dress sensibly for the occasion, you know, pitchfork, red tights, the usual thing. And if you're outdoors all day, cover up. Remember, this is July, and it is England. Overexcitement's always a danger, and with huge crowds expected, so is craning your neck for a better view. Safest thing is to take a portable telly and tune into Channel 4 Racing for tour updates throughout the afternoon. Don't bring the Dulux though. For one thing, you could repaint your house with the amount you'll need to spell Abdul-Jabbar off. For another, it's illegal. Celebrity spotting, on the other hand, is harmless enough fun. And although we can't guarantee this French trio will be on hand, the homegrown heroes definitely will. However enthusiastic you get, give the riders room. And if you're taking pictures, remember, objects are closer than they appear in your viewfinder. Same warning goes to the Jack Charlton impersonators. Not all riders are grateful for unsolicited drinks, so play safe and save water. While we're on the subject, it's a long day, so make sure you go before you set off. And above all, enjoy the Tour en Angleterre. Riders are looking forward to it as much as you are.
How the riders knew the Tour was coming to Britain back in 1989 when that shot was taken. On a serious note, don't drink and drive, don't drink and ride, and it should be a great couple of days, especially if Chris Boardman is still in yellow when the Tour gets to Dover. To find out if he's going to be, let's go back to the team time trial and Phil.
The arrival now of the Motorola team, and this should be the best time so far. And there you are, Motorola are going to throw down the gauntlet now to the few teams left to finish, as Sean Yates grits his teeth and brings them home. 5 riders hang on together because the time is on the 5th man. It's the best time to date, 1 hour, 20 minutes and 37 seconds. Back out on the climb, the Benesto squad. Still 7 of them left, and still that man, Gerard Rouet, gritting his teeth and hanging on to the back. What a marvellous competitor he is, injured after a very heavy fall. Now hanging on to the back of the line, just in case he's needed to be 5th man. They've gone over the top with a time equal to the teams that matter, conceding nothing at all, 1 or 2 seconds, that's all. The Mapei class team of Tony Rominger. We haven't had a chance to see too much of them on the road today. Tony Rominger looks to have kept a real strong team about him today, because they seem to be all here. Jörg Müller sitting at the back on the right, great friend of Rominger, and unlike Rominger, went over to the United States to do training at high altitude before coming back. The exact same formula they used last year, and Rominger went on to... I'm in trouble here with the GAN team. We have dropped a rider here in the GAN team. It looks as though it might well be Francis Moreau. Well, there it is, Francis Moreau, and that's a little bit of a surprise.
It is, because this is really the kind of discipline that I expected Moreau to be good at. He was the world champion. Now we get a little bit of a replay of him going out to the back, and as you can see, he's a strong rider on the flat, but it's just over the top of these little climbs when somebody's pushed the pace just too much at the front that Moreau can't keep on the wheel. And I think just in front of him, that is Greg LeMond as well, who's suffering a bit there too.
And the Mapei class team we're looking at now, they've gone through 45 kilometres with the 4th best time, but the GAN team still to arrive at that point. They've conceded 44 seconds to GB and 32 seconds to Motorola, but more importantly, Tony Rominger on Mapei conceding to the Benesto team only 8 seconds, the team of Miguel Indurain. And this now the arrival of the men who have been setting the time checks alight. Johan Museo is the team leader here and a candidate for the yellow jersey tonight. But it is going to be, I think, GB just on the line by a few seconds over Motorola to set the best time, 1:20.31, the fastest time so far. Motorola dropped back to second place. And look at Boorman, the acceleration of Boorman, anxious to get to the front. And look, he's actually telling the team, I'm not sure whether, I thought he was indicating in his back wheel, but no. He's got the echelon going again. This is when Chris Boorman does come into his own. This is his speciality, and not that of the professional riders in the Tour de France. He knows what to do. Mapai class out on the climb for Tony Rominger. They're holding their own very nicely. They're not conceding too much time. But now they too on the climb, down to 5 riders. And now the Gant team are cracking wide open here as they try to keep Chris Boorman in that yellow jersey. They've tailed off Gouvenou and they've tailed off Jean-Claude Colotti. Colotti may well have been told by his manager to go back anyway because he was suffering, and just make sure that Gouvenou doesn't lose too much time and be eliminated. So 2 riders left now to fend for themselves from the Gant team. The team is down to 7 men, and the big problems for Chris. Rominger now, with his heavy work done on the hill, drops to the back of the line and lets his greyhounds get on with the pacemaking as the pace goes back up to over 50 kilometres an hour. Indurain nudging a few seconds out of Rominger here. The Benesto team, through the last check we had, in 1 hour, 7 minutes and 9 seconds. Remember, these are the joint favourites of the Tour de France. Miguel Indurain on the Benesto squad and Tony Rominger on the Mapai class. And Rominger's squad we're looking at the moment has gone through, but only by 13 seconds slower than Miguel Indurain's squad. That's not too bad.
It's very, very close in an event when the riders were, when Tony Rominger especially was expecting to pull back some time and gain an advantage over Miguel Indurain. It is still very close after such a tough course today, but he's got to be a much more happy man than he was last year when his team conceded over 3.5 minutes to Miguel Indurain. And it's going to keep the Tour de France so close this year, because last year it was almost over for everybody else after the team time trial. This year it's going to be an incredible race.
And now the arrival of Miguel Indurain's Benesto squad, and that man Gerard Rouet, who's hung on at the back, is still there. 6 of them coming through, and Indurain surprisingly at the back and happy to let his team set the pace right up to the line. The clock will stop even if there are 6 on the 5th rider over the line, and it's a very good time indeed for Benesto. As they come up to the line, they'll be slower than Motorola. 3rd place it will be, and that is an excellent time for them. 1 hour, 20 minutes and 49 seconds. It's almost trouble here, the Mapai class team. Remember, they've only got 5 men. They're going to have to wait for this rider.
And this is the problem. It's a back wheel there. The back wheel has been punctured, and that is a problem when you take the risk of blowing riders away on the final climb, as they did there. When you're down to 5, then you must wait for the last man, and this could cost Tony Rominger's team dearly.
It's Escartin, who's punctured. See here the time check of 45 kilometres, and the Gant team now beginning to slip away from the lead, although they've gone through there at the bottom of the board. At least they're on it. But it's the time that counts, and we're dealing at this stage of the Tour de France in seconds. Boorman stayed at or near the front ever since he sensed his team were in trouble. He's riding number 2 at present. The name of Greg LeMond written on the road.
Greg's gone off the back here. Greg LeMond suffering on the climb, complaining all year this year that he's been a little bit overweight. He just doesn't seem to have been able to lose those last few kilos that most of the riders actually put on in the winter time, and LeMond really suffering here. Now they're down to 5 riders, and Greg is fighting at the back there to stay in contact.
Here's the Spanish Once team coming up towards the line. They've had a tough ride today. Well, the Once come in, and it's a good time. It'll keep them reasonably in touch with things. 1 hour, 22 minutes for them. 9th place at the minute.
It looks as if it's a back wheel there again for Jean-Philippe Dodgeroy, the best placed French rider in the Tour de France last year.
Now they have a problem, Paul, because there's a rider with a candidature for a high finish in Paris. Now they've got to think long-term or short-term with Boorman.
It's a very difficult choice to make, but I think the decision has been made on the road, and they're going to carry on and sacrifice him. There's not too far to go.
Castorama always a little bit off the pace today, but not too far. And now look at this, the chase still on. There's Boardman now totally ignoring the fact that Jean-Philippe Dojva has gone off the back. They have 5 men, that's all they require, and they're going for it to try and restrict themselves and the losses. Oh, what's happened here? Another puncture. Goodness me, Eddie Seigneur there had a little bit of a problem. And he's got to be in touch with the leaders, because he's the man now the time will be stopped on.
This is the team of Tony Rominger coming up. They've been a little bit off the mark all the way through, but just keeping in contact with the Banesto, and it's going to be interesting to see what their time is.
They're certainly losing the stage itself. GB are going to feel very pleased with their performance today. But the Rominger team, a lot better than they were 1 year ago. Tony Rominger stays well in touch with Miguel Indurain in the Tour de France today. Well, the 5 riders coming together to the finish. Chris Boardman in the yellow jersey and managing to survive his pace today. Greg LeMond, the 3-time winner of the Tour de France. And Eddie Seigneur, the rider we saw nearly go off the road there on the right-hand bend. With him, Christophe Capel and the 5th man, Didier Rousse. They're the only survivors of the Gant team as they approach the finishing line. Jean-Philippe Dojva punctured. He was a strong man near the end and they left him. They decided to sacrifice a high finish in Paris for a yellow jersey now, and that, I'm afraid, has gone as well for Chris Boardman. But what a souvenir he's got when he goes back home to Hoylake at the end of the Tour de France. Coming up to the line to a great round of applause, and the maillot jaune of Chris Boardman comes over the line in first position for his team as he says farewell to the lead of the Tour de France. That will pass now to Johan Museeuw of Belgium. 8th place for Gant on the line. So the GB repeating the feat of 1 year ago and winning the team time trial stage of the Tour de France ahead of Motorola and Miguel Indurain's Banesto squad. Last year they got the race lead from Mario Cipollini. This year they've done it for Johan Museeuw. He now leads this race by 10 seconds ahead of Miguel Indurain, 19 seconds ahead of Rolf Sorensen, and in 4th place the world champion Lance Armstrong, 22 seconds back. And right after the finish, our man Paul Sherwin joined the scrum to speak to Chris Boardman.
Well, Chris, that was a tough day today. It didn't quite go exactly as planned, did it?
No, not really. I turned myself inside out, trying to give the team as long rest as possible. But there was just a bit of a difference in ability today. A lot of it because of the work they had to do yesterday, I think. And towards the end, those little hills, as I said before, were really going to show up who was communicating the very best. And today we found it very difficult, especially with the noise of the crowd. It was really difficult to know what was happening at the back when you're trying to concentrate on getting your effort out. And a couple of the lads didn't hear what was being shouted, and so it didn't go as smoothly as we would have liked.
Well, Chris Boardman may well have lost his yellow jersey today on a windswept course, but he gave it 100%. Tomorrow, the only 2 British cyclists in the Tour de France will be racing on British roads, so do reserve a special cheer for them, Chris Boardman and Sean Yates. Now, a message from the British police is, do not be deterred by the rail strike, do come along and watch the spectacle in Britain. But they say start early, and there will be plenty of car parking space throughout the race route. For our part, we'll bring you a live programme at 10:25 in the morning, and then throughout the afternoon, regular updates. There will, of course, as usual, be our regular evening programme. As we say goodbye now and head down the Eurotunnel, next stop for us is England. We'll leave you with some riders' numbers and faces of the men you will see on the roads of Britain tomorrow. Until then, goodbye. Number 1, the 3-time winner and defending champion, Miguel Indurain. The rider who finished 2nd last year, number 11, Tony Rominger. Rider number 21, and now the new leader of the Tour de France, Johan Museeuw. The world champion, number 31, Lance Armstrong. Number 51, the man they call El Diablo, Claudio Chiappucci. From Switzerland, rider number 61, Alex Zula. From Great Britain, rider number 39, Sean Yates. And the number we've all come to know this week, rider 82, Chris Boardman. From Italy, the double world champion, rider 101, Gianni Bugno.